What up, nerds? My name is Leslie Smith. Welcome to The Nerdy Narrative, a channel I created in order to share with all of you about all of the things that I read. Today, I'm going to do a quick recap of all of the things that I read during the month of May and just a couple of brief thoughts about each. So let's just dive right in and get moving. First, let's talk about Karen Hewler's The Splendid City. This is the arc that was so kindly sent to me by Angry Robot Books. It comes out June 14th. I absolutely loved it. I will be putting up a dedicated review for this one, so keep your eyes peeled for that. The Splendid City is a genre blending story about modern witchcraft, a police state, or rather, I guess it should be country, because Texas finally breaks off, becomes its own country, renames itself Liberty. And last but not least, the selling point for me, a talking cat named Stan who loves fish tacos, drinking craft beers, and shooting people. And just keeping going from the stack, we come to my first DNF. Bum bum ba bow. Black Veil by Kristen Britton. It's the fourth book in her Green Rider series. The reason why I DNF'd it, and it is a soft DNF. I enjoyed the part that I read before I got sick, but I tried to keep going when I was sick by getting the audiobook from my library. I retained nothing. I was 60% through the book and I could not tell you anything. And then I tried to go back and read physically and just, it didn't work. So I soft DNF'd it because with commitments that I have for the summer, I just don't have time to fit in a reread at this time. So I will come back to this one. And since I talked about that DNF, I'll go right into my next one. I DNF'd Pulse by B.A. Bellick. The story was written in a way that does not work for me. I've only tried to read one other book like this, Interior Chinatown. I DNF'd it as well. It's kind of like a screenplay. The way that it's written and its timing and the way it was jumping between characters so fast that you couldn't get a feel for one character before you're on to the next one. And then sometimes you're in the present with this character and sometimes you're in the past. And it just was not in a way that flowed. It felt very choppy. I was not enjoying it. I didn't connect with the plot, so I put it down. Up next is S.A. Chakraborty's Kingdom of Copper, the second book in the Dnf'D trilogy. Loved, 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 loved. I loved it even more than the first book. Oh my goodness. The scheming is so good. The further development of the characters, the magic. S.A. Chakraborty really sucked me in with this one. The first book in the series, I only liked one character, Ali. This one, she actually had me falling in love with the other two characters because it's a 3 POV story. And I was like, you really did that. That's impressive. So I am very excited to continue this series. Middle Eastern fantasy seems to be a love I never knew I had. It was just hiding in the depths of my soul. I'm so happy that this author was patient enough in her writing style, patient and engaging enough without being info dumpy, teaching me about Middle Eastern mythology. Absolutely love it. Cannot wait to read the third one. And then a little space opera, Empire of Silence by Christopher Rocchio. One of my new favorite books. I'm predicting it's going to be a favorite series. I did a dedicated non-spoiler review for this one, so I won't waste your time here talking about it. I will just link that up in the cards and down below in the description box if you want to take a look. I really love this story. The way that it's written is absolutely beautiful. I loved the pacing. I loved the methodical way that it was told. Big time fangirl for Christopher Rocchio. And it's a debut novel. Debut novels shouldn't be that good. I mean, literally, you have no right, sir. You have no right. But I'll allow it. Next up on the list is a fantasy short story collection that I finally finished this month. That is A Merchant in Oria and Other Tales by fellow friend and booktuber David Wiley. I absolutely loved this collection. I think this is the first collection I have finished that's actually fantasy short stories. I'm so accustomed to fantasy tales being 800 plus pages in a 10 to 14 book series. It was a delight to find some shorter material to read and have fun with. We have Liminal Spaces, Portal Fantasy. We have some science fiction fantasy blends. If you would like to know my non-spoiler thoughts on each story in the collection, check out my Instagram. I'll have it linked down below in the description box. Every day I read a short story and I'll post a little picture of the title page and either brief thoughts of what I thought about the short story or a meaningful quote I pulled from the story that I felt just really captured the essence of it. But this one is definitely in the top 5 favorite short story collections I've read so far this year. Next on the list of books I read this month is Song of Echoes by R.E. Palmer. It is the first book in his series. I could not rate this book. The reason being for that, I'm going to have to continue this series and perhaps rate the series as a whole. This one felt like a prologue or a beginning. I formed no connection with the characters. I didn't know enough about the plot to really get invested. So for the first time in ages, I had no way to rate what I would think about this book. So I'll have to update you once I'm able to continue that series. My next one here is a new to me author, Mark Allen Gunnels. Now this author has a ton of work. They're very prolific. I am so excited to know that because I loved this story. It was unique, it was original, it had such a great atmospheric feeling to it. There was 2 types of fear. There was the fear of the unknown, the rain that was not rain. It was a different consistency. It was like some sort of gel. Didn't know what it was. And then the fear of people being trapped in a closed space where some of the people had been outside when this rain started falling and it got on them versus the people who did not. And just the tension and the anger and the buildup of those 2 groups. Ugh. So good, so good. I love this. I've already been on Amazon picking my next read by Mark Allen Gunnels and I cannot wait. Let's talk about Liminal Spaces, an anthology edited by Kevin Lucia. Oh my gosh, this one was amazing. Liminal Spaces are that in between. You're neither here nor there. You're kind of stuck in the middle. So all of the authors in this anthology wrote stories based on that theme. Oh gosh. I believe there were only 2 to 3 that I just thought were okay. The rest were amazing. Again, check out my Instagram if you would like to get a brief feel of each individual story. But this is an anthology for you horror lovers out there. This one belongs on your shelf. These stories will definitely be rereads for me. I found several authors in here. I want to read more by them. So I'm very appreciative that Kevin Lucia added in at the front of each story other works by that author because it makes it easy for me to do my shopping. So thank you for that, Kevin. Up next, let's talk about the May pick of the month for the Wine and Crime Book Club. We did have a live show where we talked about this one. At the beginning of the live show, I give a non-spoiler summary. I have everybody in the book club give their ratings on what they thought. So if you have been on the fence about this one, you weren't sure if you wanted to pick it up, you can check out the front of that video to see all of our ratings. But I loved it. And I actually thought that I didn't like the way it ended, but as we talked about it on the live show, I changed my mind. The more I thought about it and voiced my thoughts out loud, the more I realized, hey, I kind of love that. Which is funny because when I updated in one of my weekly reading wrap-ups, I was like, you know, normally I like this sort of thing, but this time I didn't. Yeah, I loved it. I also read the new release by Nick Roberts, The Exorcist House. I loved this book. I did do a dedicated review for it, so again, I'll have that linked in the cards and in the description box below. Check that out. You are going to want this story. It is the scariest story I have read so far this year, and you can bet your bottom dollar come fall, it's going to be top of the list of what I'm going to recommend you guys read for the Halloween spooky season if you haven't already read it. Right next to that is going to be the last book that I have to tell you about reading in May, The Cursed Among Us by John Durjan. I believe this is John's debut novel. He's authored other short stories, but I believe this is his debut novel. So fun. And in fact, This is the one I'm going to recommend in that spooky season holiday video. This is going to be the one I'm going to say to start with, to get you in the mood, to set the scene. It's just one of those, it's a familiar slasher kind of formulaic story. You know certain things are going to happen, but you don't know when, and you don't know to who. And of course the author does have their original spin on how these elements are used, but one of my favorite things were the 90s nostalgia that was all over this book. Like, I just can't get enough of it. I can't wait to reread this one. I would love to see this one in a movie adaptation. This would be so easy to adapt to a screenwriting script. Like, So even though I was sick and couldn't read for half of the month, I did still manage to get some amazing reads in. Hands down, my favorite read of the month is gonna go to Christopher Ruccio's Empire of Silence. This was my patron pick of the month. My patron who picked this is Lindsay, and I will be forever in her debt for choosing what might possibly be my top favorite series of all time. If not top, it's definitely going to be in the top 2. Worst case scenario, top 5, but it's definitely my favorite space opera. And I know it's only the first book in the series, but if this is your debut novel and it's written this well, there's literally no way you can screw it up going forward. And you know how debut authors are. They just get better. The more they do their craft, the better they get. I am so excited to see how this journey is going to end. Guys, that is going to do it. Those are all of the books that I read for the month of May. Another month of hits. I can't wait to see what's going to happen in June. For June, all of my books are authored by new authors to me, except for I think 3. I am excited to see what type of worlds these authors are going to build for me, new characters to meet and fall in love with. If you want to stick with me for that journey, make sure you hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any updates as I read through and share my journey with you. Thank you so much for being here today. Have a fantastic rest of your day, and I will catch you in the next one.